Okay, so welcome. I know it's post-lunch, so I'm tempted to do, and I think I will do it, and it'll only take 30 seconds, Giuseppe. Everyone just stand up just for a minute. $20 more seconds, that's all. Okay, let's begin. Just one bit of housekeeping before we begin. Does anyone have a booster seat here? Evidently, Vatican officials are much taller than I expected with these seats, so I'm reaching here a little bit. Our topic is building an AI innovation ecosystem in the church. And it dawned on me again when Matthew was speaking why this particular topic should be done. Over the past 3 months, from afar, because it's all been done on Zoom, but really feeling much closer than Zoom to Matthew and his team, I've seen the entrepreneurial cycle. And I've even felt a certain trauma of remembering in the past of building things and what it takes to build things. So the thought process behind this particular topic, building an AI innovation ecosystem in the church, is for us to make it easier for the truth leads, for Magisterium AI, for the other initiatives that will get started, hopefully, right after our forum here. And how we're going to attempt to do this is we're going to speak to this distinguished panel. I'm going to introduce them individually in just a minute. But then maybe we'll save a few minutes as well at the end, not unlike Father, I think Wang did, effectively. And that is get short comments from you as well. So I'm going to try and keep a close eye on the clock so we can get both. So, I took notes on some words that were shared in the earlier presentations. You're going to hear them out of context, so maybe you'll remember them, maybe you won't. Someone said vision earlier. Someone said courage earlier. Someone said ruthless, but it wasn't said in a bad way, but probably in building a business. And then I think it was Father David said sing and dance, song and dance, sing and dance, which any entrepreneur can relate to. I wanted to bring attention to John Johnson's remark and then Max Tegmark affirming it, that although over the next 42 minutes or 41 minutes, we're going to try and get very pragmatic in terms of helping build out the ecosystem. John, your words were not lost. Max, your words were not lost. That really the ultimate pragmatism, of course, is what is true, good, and beautiful for the human person. What is the proper balance between economics and truth? That is in our mind, but we're going to, for the next 40 minutes, we're going to try and get very practical in asking questions about building out the ecosystem. So with that in mind, I'd like to introduce our 4 panelists. Tim Connors, we're very blessed to have Tim with us. Tim is a founder. He's a managing partner of PivotNorth Capital. Venture capital, early stage investments Tim has done, including Netscape, but a whole host of tech solutions he's been involved with. He has his MBA from Harvard and his electrical engineering, I think, Tim, from UCLA. Martin, did I get that? What? Okay, well, I should have used AI to, okay. So I used the wrong AI to get this information, evidently. It was hallucinating, I think. So, okay, so Martijn Cremers. And let's hope we get this one right. He's, of course, the dean of the Mendoza College of Business at the University of Notre Dame. He was a professor, or is a professor as well, of finance at Notre Dame. He was on the faculty at Yale for 10 years in the School of Management. He has his PhD in finance from New York University. Andrew DeBerry is a serial entrepreneur. He's gifted in the area of operations in particular. He is the COO of Costa Security. His areas of specialty are security operations, risk management, and operational strategy. And he served in senior leadership roles in multiple companies. Lastly, Andreas Widmer from the Ciocca. Did I say that close enough? Okay. Center of Principled Entrepreneurship at the Catholic University of America. He's been an executive in technology companies, including Dragon Speech Recognition. You're familiar with Dragon. He's also founded a fund that does outreach in particular to those experiencing poverty throughout the world. Most intriguing, Andreas is a former Swiss Guard. And at 6'9", if you have any issues with anything said today, please take it up with Andreas. Okay, so our plan is I want to offer questions to all four gentlemen at the same time. And hopefully we'll save a little time at the end for your questions as well. I want to define two terms. When I speak of the word we in the context of the church, I'm speaking about both lay leaders, those of you who are pastoral entrepreneurs, and the institutional church. So the word we means both. Secondly, when I speak of AI, we've been speaking about generative AI, but AI is very broad. Everything from computer vision to language recognition to deep learning and large language models. So gentlemen, when you comment, it should be on the broader possibilities of artificial intelligence. So with that in mind, what points, and I'm going to put it out to whoever wants to speak first, what points intrigued you, concerned you, got you enthusiastic from what you heard from what Matthew spoke about? What jumped out at you?
Matthew, how big is your team? So that's probably the biggest thing that jumps out at me is you take Matthew's passion for the church, and with 13 people, you could do now what this would have been impossible to do 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I think that's the biggest thing for all of us here is the ability to leverage AI for good is like nothing ever seen before. It's going to be the biggest transformation we've ever seen. And in tech land, we see a new technology, buzzword every couple of years. And most of them are either a technology looking for a problem to solve or are 10 years away. But AI is legit. And in the hands of people who want to do evil with it, they're going to be able to do tremendous evil with it. But in the hands of folks like Matthew who want to do good with it, just imagine the scale of impact Matthew can have with a team of 13 people. Awesome.
Please feel free to comment. But Tim, a quick question from that. I thought you were going in the other direction when you said 13 in the sense of, no, that's not enough people to build out a company. So evidently not.
The size of teams are actually going down. It's fascinating. So there's an AI engine called a GitHub Copilot from our friends at Microsoft. That product's been transformational. So they train, Microsoft bought a company called GitHub years ago, which is a repository of code. And there's millions of coders now that submit code to it. Well, OpenAI trained on that code, so now it can help coders code. And all my engineers are using it. They're getting between 2 and 3x improvement in lines of code per day per engineer. So in my early stage startups, it used to be a coder and 3 coders and a seller to be able to build early product. Now it's 1 coder, 1 seller. And so just the ability of unleashing that one engine on that one title been transformational. And then every one of the 10,000 titles in the world, including Priest, as you're helping, is going to have an AI copilot helping them. And it's not going to replace the human. It's going to make the human way more effective at doing the job that they love doing. And so 13 is actually big scale now because you can get started with just 2.
And for this first question, let's have all 4 of you comment on what jumped out at you, good, bad, or whatever.
Yeah, thank you. What a privilege, honor to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm from the Netherlands, so I'm the guy with the J too many. If you're wondering, the J is silent in English. So many things resonated with me. One particular phrase that really resonated with me is this notion that AI needs to supplement but not substitute for the human person. That business and everything that AI is doing is ultimately about the human person, that business is always first and foremost a community of people who work together towards contributing to the common good, thinking very hard about what the actual needs are, how are they actually serving other people. And they do that first and foremost as a team, and then as a team you compete in the world. And this notion that AI is an incredibly valuable tool that all of a sudden allows us to use data and information in ways that we haven't been able to do before, particularly language. That's an incredibly valuable tool as long as we are able to use it to serve others, to think about the needs of others, and that it doesn't substitute for how we belong to a particular community and our human relationships.
I would also like to thank you and congratulate you, Matthew. What you're doing here is just amazing, and I'm a huge fan from the beginning since I met you. This is really, I think, what we're seeing in this room, and this is what inspired me, is the Catholic competitive advantage. I don't think we are called to imitate or replace what has been done technologically already. I think the technology is something that goes forward and that we can have input in. But what we should do is differentiate with what we are strong at. And what struck me is especially the message from that Monsignor Ruiz read to us this morning from Pope Francis. And what resonates with me there is the wisdom of the heart. And I think this is what we can bring into this, that if you're looking at all the debate and all the usage and discussions around AI, what it doesn't have is the wisdom of the heart, because that's the centrality of the human person. And I think this is something that we as Catholics can contribute that isn't already there, and I want to encourage us to do more of that.
I fundamentally believe that AI at its best helps us become more human. And I like the point of Catholic advantage because in some of the work that I've done in the ugly trenches of trying to get AI adopted across some of the most powerful organizations in the world, I felt a Catholic disadvantage. When working on responsible AI in Meta's core ads engine, I would have loved to have had the influence of the church when citing principles such as preferential option for the poor or life and dignity of the human person. That language from the Catholic Church was nowhere. Catholic disadvantage. I invite the church to be more inclusive, to be more engaged as we are in this group now. Instead, what I could do was look at how power structures that we have today, and there was a mention of politics earlier, do have translated versions of these concepts. The US law does in fact have concepts such as protected communities, and that is what I was able to use in order to get targeting for youth through our ads engine restricted across the world. So my ask is that we are more inclusive in how we embrace industry and that we be very realistic about how we influence the biggest structures of power, be it political, and certainly on Wall Street.
Connect the dots for us on how AI makes us more human.
Fundamentally, what we have with Sam Altman, OpenAI, with the attention is all you need paper from Google Mind in 2017, which put us on this new era of AI recently, we're relying a lot on these secular-led capabilities. But at its best, if we recenter on our human values and we're discerning about where the human heart is and where our faith has irreplaceable value, then we can design a whole new approach instead of trying to back-end faith into something that the secular world already built without the church. So I really admire the grassroots work, the early evangelism that Matt's team is doing, because it provides all of us this Catholic foundation, these tool sets to build and to design experiences that resonate with our humanity. So yes, the reality is there will be casualties on the play. We're already seeing it in AI, but I'm still optimistic the humans will win. and that at its best, AI, when designed with human dignity and Catholic values, will help us become more human.
This question is directed to Tim and to Martin. If you could do this quickly, and then I'd like everyone here to be thinking, because maybe this is part of your solutions or contributions later, can you take us on a very quick 101 on the needed ingredients of building a company? What are the macro reminder principles or points in building a company? And the reason why I'm asking is because our theme here is building out this ecosystem. So a reminder to us all as to what the steps are. And then later I'm going to ask everyone if just a potpourri of ideas on what you would do to build out the system. So Tim and then Martin.
So Pope Benedict told us how to do this, how to start companies in Caritas and Veritate. The day I read that, my life changed because it helped me understand how to connect the dots between what my mama taught me when I was a little kid, to love your neighbor and say your prayers, to your day job. And I was living in the middle of Silicon Valley at the time, and I was not seeing any examples of how to connect those two in my day-to-day life. And then you read that encyclical, and it's just so brilliantly laid out. So it all starts with the unmet need of your neighbor. So what's the big problem you want to solve in the world, and does that problem matter, right? And so Catholic social teaching roughly narrows down to 3 customers: the vulnerable family, the planet, and the Catholic Church itself. So what is a problem for one of those 3 customers that you eagerly want to solve? And not just with empathy, and not just with sympathy for the customer, but true solidarity with the customer, where you can't imagine not spending your life solving that problem. So it all starts with the problem. Then question number 2 is, what are your God-given skills? So everybody's got unique skills, and discovering them, you know, what is the work you do where it doesn't feel like work? And when you can apply your solidarity for a customer and a real need that matters with your unique skills, then you just do it with the best ability of your sphere of influence in the world. And that's where Pope Benedict laid that all out. So it's really that simple. So I start with founders: what big problem do you want to solve? What unique skills do you have? And then we try to figure out how to go solve that problem now where you couldn't solve it before. And that's why AI is so exciting. Like if you take the Hallow guys in the room, right, perfectly fits that question, right? You know, they had the passion to solve this problem, to help people find their faith. And they had complementary skills in the founder set, and they went to go work. Now it's iteration more than anything else. So it's, you know, you build the simplest solution you can to the problem, and it's always wrong. It might be 1% wrong or 99% wrong, but it's always wrong. And so it's a process of how you iterate to get to the right answer until it's all singing. And so, but if you start with that passion and solidarity for a customer that really matters, then you've got a win-win solution. And then it's pretty easy to scale from there. Yeah.
Problem, God-given ability to solve the problem, and then iteration. So Martin, what would you like to add or fill out with that?
Yeah, thank you. Looking at a beautiful bust of St. John Paul II, and reminds me of his incredible, helpful encyclicals. I think St. John Paul II always emphasized about the importance of the human person, and that therefore a business is first and foremost a community of people who get together to contribute as a team towards some common good, or the common good. So what needs do you see in the world, and how can you, as part of a community, address that need? That's what a business contributes. It does that primarily through committing to cooperation with all the different stakeholders in solidarity. And one of the challenges there as a professor of finance is that the finance stakeholder, the investor, often is least committed to long-term cooperation. And so that's one of the things that you need bilateral commitment devices to solve, but you also need to have investors who are truly committed, right, to contributing to the common good. And then the third aspect of subsidiarity is think about complementarities within the team and with all the different stakeholders. to allow people opportunity to develop and not think too transactional or only in it for oneself. That being generous to others and giving opportunity and thinking about development and complementarities, thinking of subsidiarity, I think is key there as well. And that also then brings us to what the other thing that you talked about is the ecosystem. My first reaction there is that ecosystem sounds too apersonal. I would prefer to think about that we need a community of Catholic entrepreneurs, Catholic investors, and Catholic, where the Catholic is both, also to your point, is both with a capital C, but also with a small c. I like to emphasize always that Catholic teaching is also a Catholic with a small c, based on these universal human principles that you don't need to be, a Catholic with a capital C to fully embrace. So we can be inclusive in that way as well.
Andrew and Andreas, you both had a similar statement in Matthew's direction, applauding what he's doing. And so I'd like you to kind of take that same feeling and project it onto entrepreneurs we can't see yet, those who might be in this room and or those who might be watching these videos who might create some things, and maybe answer this question. What can we do, either venture persons, connectors, what can we do to support entrepreneurs to ensure they get the right mentorship so they can build and innovate, especially in this area that we're meeting about today, artificial intelligence?
Level, I'm really enthusiastic about what we can do with this, one of the world's history's most powerful tools for doing good right now. And yes, we need to have the conversations about how we're forming the person and the anthropology of what we're doing. There's so much good that we can do right now. We can apply this in unlimited ways across our communities, across our ministries, across our personal missions. And so what does that mean real world? So how do we find, there's VCs in the room that are very kind and leaders in their own space, for how are they breaking the model for what Wall Street's been able to do so far? We have founders, we have universities, we have a wide range of entrepreneurs of the spirit who are finding new ways to incubate, ways to use this technology at our fingertips right now to do incredible good with it. And so some 4 quick practices we could do. Number 1 is write a Catholic social teaching guidelines for AI. Number 2, our different communities could write AI usage policies and AI value statement. We could do that as well. Number 3, in our families, our communities, our organizations, we can identify AI actors that think about this, that are championing what's possible, questioning what shouldn't be happening. So that can also integrate what's feasible.
There's so many things I would want to say, and so I'm going to try to just focus a bit. My bias is this, that I was part of 2 major developments in technology, right? I was part of FTP Software that brought the internet to the PC in the late 80s, early 90s. Netscape was built with our toolkit, and then I was part of Dragon Systems, which brought speech recognition. Now, and which is large language models. I understand things have developed and everything, but every time you do something like this, you think the world is going to end. And you think this is absolutely, positively, this time we have it, the most important technology ever. And that is bubble thinking. The world changes much slower than we think because we're inside the bubble. That does not mean, I'm telling you, the internet certainly has changed the world, and speech recognition certainly has changed, but there is this wave, and it's almost like the learning wave. In the beginning, you think you know it all, which is where we're at right now with AI, and then we're going to fall because then we realize it doesn't do everything that we think it's going to do, and then we come out on the other side and we have a more realistic view of it, what it can do. That said, what I love about what Matthew is doing, that he's actually not running away from the secular industry, but engaging with them. I love the fact that you have partnerships and that you reach out to people like Sam, because we shouldn't have Catholic companies. Our work itself should be evangelization. We ought to be the leaven in the world, not the bubble that goes into the corner and says, we're going to do our thing. This is one of the biggest challenges I have with my students, that when they have a strong conversion and are really on fire with the faith, they try to go into a bubble to feel safe. And you're not doing that, Matthew, and I think that's very commendable. Therefore, what I'm saying is for us all to go out into the secular industry, and there's many of my friends here who are in the secular industry, and what we're called to do there is to engage with them. I've had so many wonderful discussions with people, both in my time at FTP, which you get exposed at early in the industry, you get exposed to all kinds of people in the industry, with Dragon Systems as well, where people end up asking you, why do you behave like this? And what makes you tick? And you get the opportunity to witness to Christ through this. And I think that's one of the reasons why God puts us into the industry and why we should not run away. And I commend you for not doing that. So when you're in the secular industry, one of the key things is to not lead with the finger, but lead with open arms. I think Pope Francis is showing us this right now. To say, first, extend your arms, right? And then start to understand before being understood. We don't lead with our principles and with saying AI is a danger to humanity and there could be a bad interpretation of this, but that we lead with the actual understanding and showing people what love is before, that maybe the first time they're experiencing it. I stress it because I have seen in my own life how very powerful that was, that I was loved first. And it touches me to sit under his statue here, because that's how I found Christ, is because JP2 in our interactions loved me first.
So let's consider that image. I'm going to ask this question again to Tim and to Martin, because I think it's an important one. Let's consider JP2 a mentor in that regard. So how can the entrepreneurs in this room, Tim and Martin, ensure that they get good mentorship in all aspects of entrepreneurship, specifically in building out AI?
So you can just email me if you want my mentoring. It's kind of fun. I'm on version 3 of TimGPT. Yeah. It's been a fun journey trying to create an engine that could scale me so I could coach better and coach more people. And so when I get back to the hotel tonight, I'll review the chat logs of what my AI agent has done over the course of the day, coaching founders and students. It's about 95% of the time I don't have to intervene at all. It's really, really good on coaching, and it's trained on about 400 pages that I've written over the years of helping founders. So feel free to use that. I'd love it. Help me train it. Help me fix it when it's wrong. It hallucinated the other day and scheduled me for a meeting, and it's not supposed to schedule meetings for me, but it did that. So we still got some cleanup to do, but I've been really pleased with watching the Catholic tech community come together, and not just to work incredible things for that Catholic church customer of the 3 CST customers, but also for the vulnerable family and the planet too. And so the community's there. We got to do a better job of, and events like this and Scent and other things help bring them all together. But hopefully this discussion is the first of many where we can turn this into, Jesus showed us how to build community, right? He showed us exactly how to do it. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can do that. And Matthew, it'll be, this is your parish now that you're helping drive, and bring us all together and make sure we're interacting with each other and helping each other. Because innovation's really got 3 steps. Somebody creates an innovation, then somebody validates that innovation, and then it takes a whole community to amplify it. And there's tons of opportunities to uncover for Matthew. Matthew created and is validating this tremendous solution. If we all help him amplify his sphere of influence in the world, his ability to help spread the gospel is going to be just 100x, 1000x over. And so these Catholic communities of tech folks getting together like this and helping each other, help amplify. We've had a tremendous series of discussions just in the first half day of things that we can do together to help each other. So reach out and let's connect, and let's try to solve. It's kind of fun. People give me a hard time sometimes because I tend to be a little bit optimistic. But I truly believe that, for example, with AI, we're going to end hunger in America in the next 3 years. There are 42 million people hungry right now, and if what comes together that's already been created is amplified properly, there will be no need for anybody to be hungry in America. One of my companies live in Ghana, we just got the data back. It's an AI powered drone, so it drives a drone with AI. It's called Zipline. And we just got data in Ghana that if you are in an area serviced by Zipline, maternal mortality went down by 58%. And it's all enabled with AI. And so if we take on these big problems and are not afraid to go solve it, you can solve them now in a way you couldn't even think about 5 years ago. And so it's going to come down to all us rowing together and helping each other. But I think we can solve all the grand challenges of the world, I'm absolutely convinced, in record time.
I would also emphasize the importance of community. All of us need people who are doing similar but different things. All of us need to test our ideas. All of us need to learn. All of us need mentors. I would also stress the importance of formation and always recognizing that you're always a student. And one of the challenges in this area is I'm a professor of finance. What do I know about technology? I'm a professor of finance. What do I know about philosophy and theology? And so what I have found is tremendous value from actually diving into technology, diving into philosophy and theology, especially if you do it with others who are much more advanced in those areas than I have. So think about your formation that never stops. And that is also the beauty of being part of a community where people with very different background, experiences, formations come together, and where we listen to each other, we learn from each other, and we can be mentors to each other. And I very much think that this event contributes to that. Then more specifically in the context of serving now as Dean of a business school at Catholic University in the United States, what we hope to do is try to work together with other Catholic universities and then eventually open that up to even more universities, is to create something like a Catholic startup league in technology. We're now starting working with Catholic University of America. It's going to be first and foremost focused on our students. At the same time, we're hoping to involve many of you in that initiative as mentors, as coaches, to listen to our students pitching, competing universities against each other, but potentially also students from different universities working together. We're hoping that will also contribute to that community.
So we're going to do a little time pickup. So this will be our last question, and it's going to be really in the realm of pragmatic. So leaving here today, each of you four, what would you say are the most concrete next steps that we can do, whoever the creators are in here, we can do to put these discussions on artificial intelligence into action as a church? And maybe we'll start with Andrew and go to your right. So concrete, practical steps on all that we're hearing today. We're whiteboarding here, so nobody's getting graded for the perfect answer, but what would be next steps that we should all consider doing today?
One is, I'll re-echo the opportunity to write CST for AI. 4 years ago, the Rome Call for Ethics continues to get traction and signatories across different countries, different industries, different faiths. So the next step of that could be more practical. How do we take the next step of that? Number two is I think we can be much more inclusive in how we are building the AI. There's 100 seats in this room, and 93 of them are filled with one gender, and 7 of them filled with a different gender. And that signals something. A number of us probably came from Europe and from the United States. That's also very meaningful for how bias and the inclusion of what our church claims to be. So we can take away from that, how do we bring others along with us into this dialogue in ways that shock the way that we've done it so far. And thirdly, just echoing the points of ecosystems and partnerships, just continuing to network. I'm here also a part of Cent Ventures, which is a nonprofit group which supports Catholic founders and entrepreneurs. So you can go to centventures.org and sign up to be a member, and that's also another ecosystem that can support this group.
Yeah, very pragmatically, as we get going with our Catholic Startup League, please support us, please join us, please see this as an open invitation to get involved.
It's Catholic with the small c, because again, one of my pet peeves is that we engage everybody. We lead with vision and values, not with the religion first, because I think the whole thing, beauty attracts, the truth attracts, and by us leading with vision and values, we will actually attract people whose heart language we speak, and there is an opportunity for us to bring people to Christ with this. As far as technology is concerned, I'm very concerned that sometimes we try to replicate, we try to be in the room and replicate stuff. I think we should complement, not replicate, which is we're an example. Matthew, you're an example of this, that you're complementing, not replicating. I would ask you all to become even better Catholics in terms of understanding the faith and living the faith, but even more boldly engaging with the secular economy, so that we can actually be the leaven. And you can only do this if you do two things. And one is you need to know and live your faith, and you must not compromise when you're in these situations to actually speak to the truth and the beauty. Otherwise, it's not going to work and not be attractive.
I agree with all of that. I think I would challenge a little bit. So if I can challenge Cardinal Turkson and Matthew, and Aaron from Catholic University, and Martin from Notre Dame, the four of you guys together, your ability to convene people is unmatched. When you convene people, the love spreads and the community spreads, but the good spreads too. And the group in this room and all of your ability to convene people, take that seriously and convene the right people. Because if you convene the right people, the Catholic world can solve all these big problems and alleviate all of the suffering in the world and help everybody to see what it is that Taylor was talking about, where tech needs to come to the church to understand the person, right? We understand the person. We understand that they're meant to love and be loved. That's why we were created. You can't love in a vacuum. Love is communal. So Jesus showed us how to convene. He showed us the model, the unit, the 12, his 12 disciples, and his two roles, and his mama, the nurturer, right? So convene, you four, take it on yourselves to convene the right people, because you four have the ability to convene this group of people and many others, and the doors are ready to be opened, and people want to open those doors for these founders to go solve these grand challenges in the world. And it'll come down to, if you four convene the right people, we'll get it done.
Just briefly, one of my classes, we're working with Catholic Charities in DC to say, what is your biggest issue that you're dealing with? And then engage our entrepreneurs on trying to find sustainable solutions. We're now starting to partner with Notre Dame to do the same thing. And I think it comes to mind with the convening that we even look at a global level at the church and say, what are the biggest issues, and help them solve. What I love about this is that it's an attractive solution rather than a scolding. It's the open arms versus this, right? By us actually modeling how to use technology well.
Andrew, Martin, Andreas, Tim, thank you.